Hi, everybody. Oh, gosh, I've been so busy today trying to get ready for the coming weekend. Today's Thursday, so Saturday we're going up to take most of our stuff up and do a lot of finishing touches before we finally go up and stay up there. So I've been busy. I don't know if I'll get it all done before this weekend, but it will certainly help to have as much done as I can possibly get done. Anyway, I promised you a story, and um, I have been so busy that I wasn't sure, you know, what story I would come up with. And the angels uh, told me to tell you this one. I think this one might be a little long, but we'll see. I'll try to shorten it up. Um, I have told you before that I was raised by a narcissistic mother and a father who could easily be manipulated and pushed and forced to do as my mother told him to do. And he, I was daddy's little girl until the day she grabbed me, threw me on the floor out of his lap, and stopped him from comforting me and told him that if he ever kissed me, touched me, talked to me like that again, put me in his lap, did anything with me, that she was going to pack herself and us three kids up and he'd never see us again. And this was back in 1964. And she was going to go live with her mom and dad. I don't know that they would have allowed her to, but it was her threat. And he didn't feel it was fair to just cut me out of his life. So he cut all three of us out of his life. He didn't hug us, he didn't kiss us, he didn't play with us, he didn't spend time with us. Um, and sadly, he got the blame for that. My sister and my brother both asked my mom at different times why our father was that way. And of course, a narcissist she would never give them the true answer. She always just pretty much said, I don't know. It's just how he is. And it could be that, his back is bothering him or who knows. That's just your dad. Well, I always knew what it was. I knew she was jealous, she was hateful, she was manipulative. But I never felt that I could say anything because she was constantly hateful to me. Um, anyway, so that's just to kind of give you a little idea of how I was raised. And my mother was always hateful to me throughout my years, especially when I lived with them. She made sure that I didn't graduate. She uh, convinced the people at the school to, on my 18th birthday, to tell me they didn't have classes for me and I had to leave. Um, my parents had already gone down and signed papers um, giving the school permission to do this. Uh, I, she and my father both did not graduate high school. They both dropped out. I think my dad was an eighth grade dropout, and my mother was a ninth grade dropout. And she always made a big deal about how she had gone one more year. And um, in let's see, 1981, right after I had my daughter. Just my daughter was born April 27th, and it was May 16th that my parents came and picked me up by surprise and took me and my children back to their house and gave me the money to go with them to get our GEDs. Um, they both they got 138 on their tests, and they were told that if they had gotten one more wrong, they wouldn't have passed. Um, and they both got the same exact score, even though they both had been given different tests. Um, I had been given a different test, even though I hadn't studied. We felt that, I hadn't been out of school more than a few years, so I would probably be able to pass without taking the classes. And I did. I passed with 297, I think it was. Something like that. So I did okay. Um, and anyway, I mean, throughout my life, she, you know, forced me to stay in a loveless, abusive, horrible marriage. Going down, and when I tried to file for divorce, she talked to my attorney and convinced him to keep my money, my $1,200, and to change horses. In other words, take my husband's side rather than mine, and to um, help my husband, who was a hateful, horrible man who never changed a diaper, never fed a bottle, never loved or carried our children. But they were going to make sure that they controlled me, and this was the way to do it. Um, they held that over my head for 14 years. I stayed with this hateful human being. Um, and then he finally, 2 years after our son died, um, he had been just hateful, even more horrible to me than he ever was. I couldn't walk right. I couldn't talk right. I couldn't sit right. I couldn't eat right. I didn't think right. I didn't walk right. I didn't dress right. I couldn't um, wash, dry, or fold or put away clothes properly. I could no longer cook decently, even though he had always said what a wonderful cook I was. All of a sudden, I was the worst cook on earth. Um, just any insult he could give to me. If we'd go out shopping together, he'd stand in the middle of the store and call me horrible, horrible names. I mean, you F and C, you no good piece of and just constantly telling me how worthless and stupid I was. And um, he was just hateful, hateful, hateful. And at home, I mean, every day cutting me down, every day trying to pick a fight with me. I Most of my friends wouldn't even come over anymore, and I just I didn't even talk to him. And he went so overboard in his narcissistic, hateful treatment of me that it was so obvious that I wasn't manipulated by him. Um, and I just knew what a hateful piece of stuff he was. Um, and I found out that he had been having affairs for years. I didn't care because I felt like I was trapped. And the angels, I would talk to them about it, and they would say, you could cheat on him. That's what he's waiting for. If you cheated on him, then he would leave you and blame you. But he wants something to happen, but he doesn't want to be the blame for it. And, I had been raised that I just couldn't do that, and that was wrong. But after a couple of years of him just wearing at me and being horrible to me, I can't remember one night, he had been especially horrible, and I walked out of the house, and I had my billfold with me, so I went down to the bar, and I had a couple of drinks, and I went parking with a guy. I mean, we didn't have intercourse, but we went parking, and right away, and I knew it. I mean, the angels told me, you should do it with this guy, even though he's married. He's going to tell his wife and everybody in town what happened right away. And he's going to brag about it. And this is your way to get rid of your husband. So I didn't like it, but I did it. And it worked. I mean, as soon as he heard about it, he packed his bags and moved in with his 19-year-old girlfriend. At the time, he was 33, 34, somewhere in there. And he had a 19-year-old girlfriend at work. He was a nurse's aide at a healthcare center, and she was as well. And they would sneak off and have their times together, and everybody knew it, but my mother made sure that I didn't know it, that I wasn't told about it, though there were some people in town who had shared it with me. My brother worked there as well, and my mother told him, don't tell Candy, don't share it with her, because we can't give her a reason to want to divorce him. And so my brother listened. He always does. He still does to this day. He listens to her and her manipulative crap, but I've been out of it now for 7 years. But getting back to the story, um, he moved out. He moved in with his girlfriend. I filed for a divorce. I met, he left in December, and I met a man on Valentine's Day who was everybody's buddy and friend. He was a bit younger than me, but he'd give the shirt off his back. He was a good guy. Everybody thought the world of him. So he and I started a relationship, and this was February of 1992, I believe. Yeah. And he and I had a relationship until we got married in May of 94. Well, he and I weren't married very long before I found out that he was molesting my daughter. We had been married about 10 months, I think, when she came to me. She was mad at me. And that's why she told me. She thought she was going to hurt my feelings. And instead, it's, oh my gosh, my daughter's 13 years old being molested by my second husband. I have to do something about this. And yeah, he went to jail for a short time, and I divorced him. And anyway, with my mother being the manipulative person that she was, and I couldn't deal with her anymore. I couldn't deal with her anymore. And then my first husband, using every excuse he possibly could, he didn't want visitation from my daughter, but he actually took me to court, trying to find me in contempt of court by lying that I wouldn't let him visit my daughter, which the exact opposite was the truth. I wanted him to have visitation with her because she wanted visitation. I wanted him to take her and give me a break once in a while, and have some time with her. But he absolutely refused. He wouldn't do it. And still, he took me into court stating that I was the one that wouldn't allow visitation. I was keeping her from him. I was in contempt of court. He wanted me to go to jail. Well, they didn't send me to jail, but they did make me continue to try to get him to take her and to have witnesses around when he wouldn't. And finally, after 6 months, they decided that I might be telling the truth since he would not take her. He was supposed to take her twice a month. And I would drive to him and drop her off, and he would not take her. And a lot of times we were supposed to meet at Quick Trip, so I would have witnesses there that he didn't show up. So, and this was 2 times a month for 6 months that I would show up. And part of this time, because of my mother, and because of my first husband being such a troublemaker, and because of my second husband, lying about us, blaming me and my daughter, just being a hateful person as well, I decided that I wanted to move, and I wanted to get away, as far away as I possibly could. And the angels were pushing me to do this. They told me that I needed to stand on my own 2 feet and get out. I had a friend whose children were going to spend the summer with their father. The father actually had custody of the boy, and the mother had custody of the girl. And over the summer, they would have them together at the father's. So I would go, I did go as a nanny to take care of the kids. So my daughter and I moved 148 miles. I could move 150, and I moved 148, just as far as I could, to help with these children and to get away. And the angels made sure that everything fell in line for me to do this. And they helped me, and they guided me, and they told me to do this, and I did. And even though a lot of bad things happened even after I moved, due to the 3 people I had left and the 1 person I went to live with, he was also a narcissist and a manipulator and a troublemaker. And I just, even to this day, I keep winding up with narcissists in my life. It's really crazy making, how many narcissists are in this world, but they're everywhere. I can testify. But the angels saw me through that. The angels helped. My daughter was, after she shot and killed her brother accidentally, she became violent aggressive, and she would attack me multiple times a day. She would attack people at school multiple times a day. I would have to drop everything I was doing and run to the school to try to calm her down. I had my hands so full with her, and I was able to keep her with me until she was 15. And at that point, she just got too difficult for me to deal with. And she wound up having to go to a mental institution. And she was in the institution until she was 18. And at the age of 18, she either had to be put into the community, which is what they did, or she would have to go to an adult institution. And she wanted to prove that she could be part of the community, even though she still had some major problems. Just she attacked a liaison officer at school one day and wound up in jail for over a week, and different things like that. She was just always a handful, but I loved her. She was my daughter. I did the very best I could for her. And the angels were always there to try to help me with her and with my relationship with her, and helping me to get away from everything in our past and to try to start a new life. She stayed in touch with her father and her grandmother, and they caused a lot of problems with me through her. So even though I got away, a lot of the trouble still continued. But, when I moved, things didn't really work out. So I wound up having to find a place of my own, which I did. And after, let's see, it was 1996 when I moved to take care of the two children. And it was 1998 when I officially met my husband, who I've been married to now 23 years. And the angels had made sure that he and I kept bumping into each other all around Wisconsin Dells. And he would always flirt with me and want to be with me and, make comments. And but I never really paid attention until the day I was moving to my apartment and needed help to do so. And my friend brought his girlfriend and her son, who happened to be my husband. And so once we got together and were formally introduced, it moved rather quickly. 13 months after we were formally introduced, we were married. So, the angels intervened so many times there in my life to make sure that I would wind up with my husband. And even though, things haven't always been perfect between us, we've helped each other a lot to grow and to change. And um, he has given me the backbone and the freedom to say no to my mother and to say no to other people. And, it was because of my being able to stand up for myself that my mother finally just cut me loose 7, 8 years ago, because I was too healthy and I just wouldn't allow her to gaslight me or manipulate me or push me around anymore. So, um, you know, but through all of these things, the angels were always there helping to line things up, helping to um, give me support and to help me understand what was going on and what my options were. And I'll tell you, I don't know where I would be if I hadn't had the angels to help me with all of these things. They've really been instrumental in my life. Um, and I'm really grateful. So that's a long story, but I'm finally done for now. Thank you very, very much. And blessings, love, light. Namaste. Have a wonderful evening, everyone. Goodbye.